I want to create a legacy of not just like art, but I want to change the industry for good really badly. There's been so much toxicity in it for so long, and I want there to be less of it. I want to create safe spaces for apprentices and people to learn.
Yeah. What's up, guys? It's Colton here. Welcome back to an all new and improved edition of the Eden Pod. We've been gone for a while. Very excited to be back with you in our new and improved video format, which means you'll get to see my face, but most importantly, my beautiful wife's face, Deanna, who I co-host the show with. So thank you guys for being here for the ride. Our first show back, we just kind of recapped everything that's been going on for the past few months. Just me and Deanna, and we had a really good time with it. So yeah, enjoy.
This is our first episode where you can see us talking to each other.
Yeah.
Which is great because, as my dad said, I look like Sylvester Stallone right now because I had major surgery last week. So this is a good time to be back and swollen and visible.
Great timing. I feel like it's only like when you like laugh really hard. Like, yeah. Are you going to get like your little Botox injection? I almost said infection. Are you going to get your Botox injection next week to
I don't
even
know.
it out?
I'm deciding if it's a vibe or not. My smile.
It can be your trademark look.
Yeah. The only thing, like if I eat something like a sandwich or like, I don't know, it's like all the food kind of piles in on the right side of my lip and kind of like drips on my lip because I can't open it far enough.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's little troubles, but it's a little personality. Like my grandma says, who likes boring?
Yeah. It's like, like when people do like the dog ear tattoos where they do like outlines. Or
Yeah.
like the one line tattoos, or like where it's like the outline of like a photo. Like if somebody like does the outline of your face now, it can be like your lips, but one side is like kind of sagging a little bit.
Does that mean that's your next tattoo that you're getting?
Yeah, I have it booked already, actually.
Good. I know you can probably get it.
Where?
I
I'm
don't know,
gonna have
actually.
Gio do it. He just did some dog ear tattoos, so it's
Yeah.
like kind of the same vibe as that.
Cool.
Yeah. I like recording in the studio because there are no dogs to bark in the middle of our audio.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Speaking of dogs, Bo, one of our dogs brought in a second dead rabbit while my friend Holly was in town. So it's nice that we don't have.
I again wasn't there. I feel like it's beyond luck at this point that I'm missing the dead rabbit episodes.
The first one a few weeks ago, I woke up in my bed to a dead rabbit that my dog brought in.
And
Our dog. And it was dead. It was a dead rabbit in the bed, and I'd been napping for about 2 hours. So I woke up and he was licking it, and
he just wants friends.
This is why his name is Lenny now from Mice and Men. He just wants friends. He doesn't decapitate the animals or the bunnies. He carries them around and licks their bellies.
The last one was kind of bloody, right?
Yeah, the last one that I found, Holly found while she was over. So my friend Holly guest spotted and Katie guest spotted, but Holly was over last week and we were just talking on the couch and she looks over at Bo, and this was a few weeks after Bo brought a dead rabbit in my bed while I was sleeping. And she looks over at Bo and was like, "Is that a rat?" And I immediately was like, "No."
Oh, fuck.
Fuck no. No, it's not. Denial. Like I went through all the stages of grief. Like, no, it's not. She's like, "Yeah, I think is that a little bunny?" I'm like, "No, it's not. That's not happening." It was. She's like, "Oh, it's cute, except it has a little blood coming out of its mouth." But luckily, I'm still traumatized. So she was able to pick it up with a paper towel and man up and like dispose of it. But we went outside in the backyard and we're like, "Bo, where are you finding these bunnies?" And he went straight to the burrow.
Like a buffet table.
Yeah.
For seconds.
Yes. Tried to. Went straight to the burrow where we found 3 other little baby bunnies. They were probably, I guess, 8 days old is what the wildlife lady said who came and rescued them a few hours later.
That's crazy that you can pinpoint it in days.
I know. Yeah, they ended up being really cute. I think they're cute when they're not dead
Yeah.
and in my
Yeah.
house.
Yeah. I thought you said even the dead one was kind of cute. Like a little stuffed animal.
Yeah, like it's sleeping, kinda.
Yeah.
It's just at least it wasn't in my bed.
Yeah. Yeah. And the funny thing is like not only did I miss both of them, but I was like unavailable to hear about it because the first time I was like hiking up Mount Rainier, like I didn't have my cell phone turned on, and then I heard about it from Taylor, who was like, "Hey, have you talked to Deanna during this?" And I was like, "No, why?" Like, "Oh shit, is something like really horribly wrong?"
Yes.
It's like I thought maybe someone had died, but anyway, he was like telling me about all this he heard from Allison, and then I like turned off my phone or turned off airplane mode, and I still didn't have service. So I was like, "Oh well."
All the
So,
while I'm blowing up your
right.
phone like, "There's a
Yes.
fucking bunny, a dead fucking bunny in the bed."
Yeah, and then I watched it on Instagram.
Mhm.
You documented the whole thing too. Um,
I did.
and then I think, like, the second time I was I wasn't I was in therapy or something, like, also unavailable.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you came home to me being on the phone with the Rowlett,
vet.
vet being like, "Hey, what do I do?"
Yeah,
And you came in on that conversation.
yeah, and she said, "You can take care of them," which seems like a lot of work.
Yeah. Yeah, because I just wanted to know what to do. They're like, "Oh, you just leave him alone." And it's like, "Well, no,
Well, they're
Bo's
gonna get
gonna kill
eaten.
all of
Yeah,
them, so we need to move them."
yeah,
So we got permission to put him in a little shoebox for a few hours until the wildlife lady rescue person came and picked them up. So it was
yeah,
cute. We got to, like, pet them a
yeah,
little bit.
yeah, yeah, and Holly was there for the whole thing. Katie just missed it.
I know, she just
She got
missed
there,
it.
like, I don't know, probably, like, an hour later or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it's coincidental that our last podcast was with Katie and, like, she was also just here for, like, this episode, but they missed it by one day. We could have had Holly and Katie on the podcast, and it would have
I
been
know, and I miss them so much.
lots
We
of
had
fun.
so much fun.
Yeah.
We went to karaoke night, and we sang Book of Mormon, and they sang WAP, which was a hit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Barbie Girl, which was also a hit, very
Yeah.
topical.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like they're both so much fun, and they both have, like, really fun energy, but in, like, really different ways, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
But I can't describe to you what those ways are.
I feel like the 3 of us together are, like we are similar, but we are also different, I
Yeah,
feel.
I don't
Like, we
know.
we talked about it, and we're like, "Oh," like, Katie, like, she's, like, the crazy one, and, like, Holly is, like, the cool goth chick, and I
Which
don't
one are
know.
you?
I'm s fucking I don't know. I'm boring. I'm
You're
the
not
boring one.
boring.
I'm the
Well,
swollen one. My
yeah, well,
ankles
for
are
now.
swollen, my lip is swollen, my eyes are swollen,
Yeah.
my bits.
Jesus Christ. Well, yeah, I figured on this episode we could just kinda, like, catch people up on, like, what we've been up to now that we covered, like, the bunnies, because that was a major life
Dramatic.
event. Yeah, not for me, I wasn't there.
Yeah, no, that's nice, that's great for you. I'm happy for
Um,
you.
do you wanna talk about your surgery?
Yeah, so, like, I've been out the past week. I'm sure no one really, like, noticed or anything, but I was out the past week. I had a major surgery, not this past Wednesday, but the
2 weeks
Wednesday
ago, yeah.
before that. Yeah, so, I mean, essentially, you would call it a BBL, but really, the main goal was that in high school, the entrance stairs to high school, it was snowing outside, and I fell and slipped down the stairs. It's a great moment, and, I had to go home early that day, and I remember, like, texting a picture to my friends. I was like, "What is this bump on my butt?" You're like, "This is crazy. It's so swollen." Well, that never went away, this bump. And not only that, but it just, like, completely deformed my right butt cheek, and I've been so self-conscious of it. So, finally, now that, like, I'm older, I'm making my own money, and, like, I was like, I'm gonna fix this. Like, I'm gonna spend some money on myself to feel good in my skin, to do what I want, and I finally got it fixed, and, so they fixed my butt bump, as I called it, and then I was like, "Well, you gotta, lipo all these areas," because they needed fat anyway to, like,
Yeah.
fix the big dent
Yeah.
that
Did he say,
was
like, what
underneath it.
what that was? Because 'Cause I've never even, like, heard of that before, like,
Yeah,
the
so it's
fall deforming somebody's any body part.
Yeah, so it's really interesting. He thinks or f he believes that, when you get cellulite reduction surgery, when you go anywhere to do that, you can't have them take all the cellulite off of you, because if you do, your body's gonna have an adverse reaction, and it's gonna blow up apart from the muscle, and so when I fell, I probably ripped all of those parts off, which made this, like, kind of fat pocket, I
Interesting. So
guess.
it's more like it was like a bump instead of, like, an indention.
Well, it was a
Okay.
bump, but then underneath it indented.
Okay.
Cause like, with this meant, like, shit underneath, like, got lost. I don't know if it, like,
Hmm.
things got pushed up into there, but it just, like this was the shape of my right butt cheek. And some people are like, "I never noticed it," but, like, I've
I
always
never
noticed
noticed it.
it,
Yeah.
especially when I sat down, like, I don't know, I've always, like I don't even know if you know this, but, like, I have, like, booby tape and stuff, but I would, like, always tape it down and, like, try to, take it off before, like, taking my clothes off at the end of the day, and, like, I was obsessed with it for so many years, and
Yeah.
so I'm so glad, like, yeah, we're finally
Yeah.
getting
And
rid of it.
now you can't sit down
Yeah, so I'm sitting on
normally.
a cement brick now. That's why I'm, like, so tall,
Yeah.
and
I feel like cosmetic surgery is just getting, like, a lot more commonplace. Even like Kevin Hart in his new special, like, he has a bit about it, how, like, before, like, nobody would talk about it, but now, like, it's, like, just, like, really common. And so many things that they can do that I'd never heard of before. Yeah.
yeah, totally. Well, maybe it was more common back then, but, like, nobody was talking about it.
Yeah.
Like, it could be just as common. It's just, like, people are open, and I don't know, it's cool that people are being open about mental health, and people are being open about, like, body positivity and surgeries and therapy and all that. It's kinda cool these days.
Yeah, well, I feel like especially in this case, it's cool because, like, it's, like, been a major insecurity of yours for so long, and if you can fix that with surgery, like, and there's no other way to fix it, it's not like it's something that you could just, like, work it off or something like that, so yeah, it's cool. It's, like, a cool way for some people to, like, change their body image. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've always had, always had body image issues. My parents put me in therapy starting at 4 years old because I would cry to them and tell them I hate the shape of my face. And I was talking to my therapist a lot before I had this done because I wanted to make sure it's not like I'm not doing something because of my mental health
Yeah.
problems. I'm doing it because it's a real issue that I have that, like, it's a healthy decision, and so that's why I, like, talk to my therapist a lot beforehand. She asked me questions like, if you're ever wonder anyone listening, if you're ever wondering if you wanna get something done cosmetically and you've had, like, body image issues your whole life, um, if she was like, "Have you ever thought of, a time where you were happy with your body, like, even at your, like, smallest or, like, when you were working out or anything like that?" Like, I'm like, "Well, no, I was a little bit happier, but, yeah, I was always there was that bump
Had
always
those
kinda
issues,
worried
yeah.
me, always, had those issues," and she was like, "Do you feel like truly you'd be happy after it's gone?" And I said, "Yes," and she was like, "Well, especially in this case, since, like, you weren't born with it," um, we talked it through. She's like, "I think it'd be healthy, but if you get to the point where you are nitpicking and you are wanting multiple surgeries of
Yeah.
and she just you don't wanna get crazy with it and obsessive and
Yeah.
to where it's unhealthy, and so just I think if you ever had mental health problems and, like, body image issues, just to, like, go to a therapist and make sure, like, it's a good option for you to manage it and make sure that it's a healthy decision.
Yeah.
That's my biggest suggestion.
Yeah, that's cool that you, like, did your, like, mental research on it, if you will. Yeah, because I guess that was my only, obviously, I'm all about you doing, like, whatever is gonna make you feel better, and I think it's really cool that's, like, that's a way that you wanted to, like, invest in yourself and spend your money. I almost, like, liken it to, like, getting a tattoo a little bit
Mhm.
as far as, like, kind of like a cosmetic, like, body altering decision. But, yeah, I mean, I guess that was my only, like, wonder if, like, this is gonna be like a recurring thing where, like, obviously, like, you're never gonna be perfectly happy with your body or just anybody who wants to get surgery. So I don't know if it was like, a thing where you just, like, keep wanting more and more done. But, yeah, sounds like it's, like, a really healthy decision for you. And, yeah, it's really cool that you talk with your therapist about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Especially since I've been going since I was a kid, like, the good part of that is that I feel like I can be kinda aware, self-aware, so I wanna stay that way.
Do they have anything like this for men?
Cosmetic surgery?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
Even my doctor has, like, pictures for like, of men getting it done, but men get
really?
cosmetic surgery.
Yeah, I've heard of people getting, like, stuff done to their face, and I guess, like, liposuction and stuff. But, yeah, I wonder if that's gonna become, like, more common
It probably
now.
is more than you think.
Yeah, yeah, probably. But, yeah, like I was saying, like, I kinda liken it to, like, getting a tattoo. And I was like I was talking with, Mark Wade, a really good friend of ours recently, just about, like, tattoo pricing and stuff like that. And he was like, "Well, yeah, I mean, you can," if you think about it, like, people are, like, really quick to drop, like, tens and thousands of dollars on, like, cosmetic surgery. So, like, why shouldn't they do the same for a tattoo? And I think there's definitely a gap as far as, like, the perceived value of, like, cosmetic surgery versus a tattoo. But if you think about it, it's a very similar thing. Like, it's something that's gonna be on your body forever. It's like appearance altering, life offering. So I wonder if that will also start to change where, like, people, like, kinda see them in the same vein, and that, like, pricing for it, like, becomes similar?
Yeah. Like, I wish more people were like, knew that the same investment happened in tattoos as cosmetic surgeries or, like, any kind of
Yeah.
surgery, because like, they're not gonna if it's, like, an important surgery, I feel like most people are not gonna just, like, shop around and price check and go for, like, the
Yeah,
cheapest
yeah, for sure.
option most of the time. You
Yeah.
never know. And it's same with tattooing. Like, just when I found my surgeon, I one of the first signs, like, one of the first green flags is that he was booked out 6 months just for a consultation. I was like, "Okay," if this was, like, a tattoo artist, if they're booked out, I'm like, "Alright, it means they're in demand, like,
Yeah.
they're popular, people wanna see them," and things like that, and it wasn't the cheapest option either,
Yeah. I think that's all that should be a green flag, I think, when you're shopping for anything like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, you want good work if it's gonna last forever.
Yeah.
And everyone has different priorities. Like, some people like to spend all their money on designer clothing or whatever, their car,
Or vacations, yeah.
vacations. For me, it's food and,
This one thing.
yeah, and then all my clothes are just, like,
Yeah,
Fashion
yeah,
Nova or
yeah. You have a lot of clothes, to be fair.
yeah, but they're all cheap. They're
Yeah.
all very cheap clothes.
Yeah, and I think too, similar to, like, cosmetic surgery, like, if you wanna go all out and, like, change your whole body or, like, get a whole bodysuit, like, it's gonna take a really long time. It's gonna be a huge investment. But I feel like most people don't do that. Maybe they get, like, a few nice tattoos if they're gonna go that route, or maybe, like, a sleeve, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah, and it depends, like, it depends what you want, like, don't wanna, like, bash people, like, it's your body, do whatever the fuck you want. If you wanna be covered in, like, tattoos that aren't the best or aren't, like, the most
Um,
aesthetically
yeah.
great, like, do you. But if you want, like, if you're looking to get tattoos that look like real time has been spent into them, it's gonna cost more money.
Yeah, I feel like, some people, like, literally, like, they just want to have tattoos. They don't really, like, care about,
Yeah,
like, the quality of them, which, like,
it's fine,
to
do
each their
you,
own. I,
do you.
I somebody said this to me recently, and it was, like, funny, like, when people are like, when they, like, brag about, like, how little they paid for their tattoos. Like, I don't I don't think that's the flex that you think it is. Like, I mean, that's cool, that's fine, but, yeah, I don't know. It's just
I'm
interesting to
trying to
me.
think of what a $500 BBL would look like.
Ooh, not good.
I feel like they would be like implants that were like like backwards, and so like the flap part would be like on the outside, and then the rounded part would be on the inside, like just one of them.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what I imagine in my head.
yeah. Similar to a $500 sleeve, probably. Um, I wonder if, I just thought of this too, but you know how like medical tourism is becoming a thing now where like
What's
surgery
that?
basically like surgeries, I mean, it could be in the sense of like cosmetic or like dental surgeries is a big thing, but like a medical procedure, it'll be like cheaper in another country, like so much cheaper that it's cheaper to like go over there and get it done versus like getting it done here.
Yeah,
I wonder if that's going to start to happen with tattoos as well. Because what I from the little research that I've done on like tattoo artists in Europe, their prices like seem like lower
they are.
compared to here. Yeah.
They are. You know, it's the flight, it's the hotel. It kind of becomes expensive, like if you're not
Yeah,
from
for
there.
sure, for
But
sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
it is. I think the most expensive tattoos are definitely here in America.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Like probably in like New York specifically.
New York, California,
Yeah.
and Texas. Honestly, Texas is getting up there.
Yeah. Yeah,
Dallas specifically.
it's kinda interesting, like, when you do guest spots, like, how you have to, like, adjust your prices for, like, different markets.
Yeah.
I feel like we didn't talk about last Golden State on the podcast, or we didn't talk about, like, conventions or anything like
Oh
that.
my God, we've done so many conventions.
Well, it's weird because, like, we had done Golden State
Yeah.
before the last podcast, but it feels like so long ago, and what's crazy too is, like, Golden State is coming up again. Like, it's almost been a year. It feels like it, like, just happened, but we did Golden State, we did, Sinners last summer, the Dallas convention, didn't happen this summer. Well, like, yeah, we did it, like, a year ago, and then we did New York too back in May as a shop. But, Golden State was a little bit different last year because it was just us and Jade and Cass, versus, like, going with a whole shop like we are this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know, like, should we talk about, like, what we're doing at these, like, big old conventions
I
and
would like to brag about how you win all of them, which is pretty cool. Um, so, yeah, kinda like I've just been when I talk to these when I talk to people about, like, how you've just been winning well, anytime I talk to people about you, they're like, "Yeah, she's been winning all those conventions." I'm just like, "Yeah, I guess she just, like, got that competitive fire sparked in her," and it started with Sinners, which I don't think we talked about on the last podcast. It was kinda
mm-mm.
more of a like a Katie interview. And then, and then you had just won Golden State, and now you've won New York too, which is, like,
Yeah.
a pretty big deal. And for people that don't know, like Golden State and Empire State, those were, like, pretty much, like, the 2 biggest, like, tattoo conventions, at least in the US. So, like, super prestigious, like, really, really fucking good work, a lot of big pieces are being done there. So,
Especially
like
for realism and for
yeah,
people
yeah.
all over,
Well,
which
I feel like almost, like, pretty much any best of show piece I've seen has been, like, a realism tattoo. Maybe
yeah.
that's just kinda, like, how the industry is going. But anyway, it's a big deal, and so what I've been telling people is like, yeah, I guess, like, just her, like, competitive nature or something got sparked. So I was wondering if, like, maybe you can speak to that, like, what casually made you decide to just win best of show at some of the best conventions in the world? Sinners
It's
too, it's not like I mean, that like, it's happened, like, a couple years, but, like, there were, like, some really, really talented artists there, and I mean, there are just I feel like there are just amazing artists in DFW too.
dude, it's so fucking crazy to me still to think that I won best of show at some of these conventions. And for a lot of, like, tattooers that have been established, like, I know they talk about, like, "Oh, you know, like, it, like, doesn't matter," and that's fine. For me personally, it was a personal goal.
Yeah.
Since I was just starting out in the industry and coming to these conventions, I've been I've been in the industry for about 15 years.
Yeah.
I've been going to conventions for that long. That's been the place where I would go to watch other people and be inspired, and, I I I never even back then, I was like, "There's no way I could be like that person one day to be a winner," let alone I was an apprentice for 5 years. I didn't even think I'd ever become a tattooer
Yeah.
for a while. Um, but yeah, and I've been trying to, and I grew up around people and in a shop with, like, Rember, who he would always try to um, win convention awards and stuff, and I'd see that, and yeah, I just kind of I secretly I really wanted it. I wanted to be that person that
Yeah.
some people could be inspired by, like I was so inspired.
Yeah.
And I just got this competitive spirit, and I used to say like, "Oh, like, I used to not be competitive and now I am." But talking to my mom even recently, she was like, "Yeah, I remember when, you were in, like, 1st or 2nd grade and you were trying to draw a giraffe and you had a complete meltdown and you redrew it a million times and you just freaked out because you could not get it perfect." And I don't know if it's being competitive or being a perfectionist or a mixture of both. I don't know if it's always been there and I just denied it until recently. But yeah, this competitive spirit got me wanting to try really hard again. And especially being a woman too in the industry.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about this because I was talking to Kevin Leroy and he was like, "Yeah, like, I have a job to do. Like, I wanna inspire people that, like, this is what you can fucking do,
Yeah.
in this industry." And, like, for me, like, for women, I want to be like, "Look, like, you can win these pieces. You can show all these big boys, big bad boys, like, that you can do some badass work."
Yeah.
And it's cool. It's fucking cool, and I worked really, really fucking hard to get to this point, and I tried to win Best of Show before at these conventions, and I didn't make it,
Yeah.
and I would see these big old leg pieces, done, and I'm like, "How the hell would you get a whole leg panel done? Like, that is not fair."
Very
I would
carefully.
enter, like, these, half sleeves and be like, "Yeah, this is gonna win a Best of Show," and wasn't even close. I'm like, "There's no way I would ever be able to do that."
Yeah.
So
Well, you also like kind of like stopped doing conventions for a while. Not only because of COVID, but I feel like I mean when we got together kind of around Hell City, like I don't
yeah, I was burnt
you did
out.
Golden State again like early I guess it was like early 2019, but like I felt like you were just doing like so much travel before that that you kind of like didn't do I guess that was like the last convention you did like before Sinners this past year, right?
Yeah, I was really burnt out for a while. After the first time I did Ink Master, I traveled and did so many conventions and so much traveling, and I was ready to just, like, settle in. I was burnt out for a while.
Yeah, you had just moved to a private studio,
Yeah. Yeah.
just met this guy that was taking up a lot of your time.
Yeah, and I loved it. Like, when I found you, when we found each other, it was really nice because 'cause you're also, I don't know, you were like you're really healthy, like a really healthy relationship and really healthy to be around, and I was really excited about you. I am still very excited about you, but it was a cool thing to kinda dive into when my life was just sort of chaotic
Yeah.
before you came, and, you brought a sort of, like, safeness and steadiness, and, um, yeah, I definitely happily fell into it, and I've loved it. I've loved the sense of safety, and so now I'm just, like, I don't know, exploring a little bit again with conventions and traveling and
Yeah. Well, now I love doing conventions with you,
Mhm.
and especially when you win them. That's that's really cool. I cannot describe, like I mean, maybe it kinda comes through in, like, the videos that I take when I'm, like, screaming when you win, but, like, I cannot describe, like, the secondhand, like, just ecstatic feeling that is when, like, you really love spouse and they do something fucking awesome that they really care about. Like it's been it's been so cool to just be next to you while you do that stuff. It's like one of the biggest, probably like some of the coolest things I've ever done. Just being there.
You don't know, like, how happy that makes me. And I know I will rewatch all those videos, which are posted on my Instagram if anyone wants to see Colton screaming after they call my name. I love rewatching that and just seeing the support you have because before you, I was also, I was dating a lot of, like, artists as well, but there was always this competitiveness where it's felt like nobody was ever truly happy for my success.
Yeah.
Um, and it just I cannot tell you how much it means to me that to hear, like, how happy and supportive you are for me and how refreshing it is, and it's incredible. I can't thank you enough for being in my life.
Well, I feel like you're welcome. Can't thank you enough. It's so cool that I get to like, I've been able to like step in your world for the past few years. I feel like I don't do anything. I'm just here while you're being fucking awesome. But anyway,
You
it's
do a lot.
those moments are so cool because like I feel like I have like a front row seat to like how fucking hard it is to do that. Not only with like the years and years you've been mastering your art and your craft, but like to do a 3-day tattoo at a convention is like that's not an easy feat. I mean, those leg panels, they take you like 26, 28 hours of tattooing. Do you want to talk a little bit more about like what you have to go through to do that?
Oh my god, yeah. So, like, it's the same thing I thought when I first saw these leg panels wedding. I'm like, "How the fuck do you do that?" So, yeah, we're doing a whole leg panel from ankle to hip in 3 days, basically, at a convention where it's loud, you're uncomfortable, you're squeezed into spaces. So, how do I do this? First, planning out the design. To make a good tattoo design, you have to make a simple dynamic tattoo anyway. You wanna be able to see that too from a mile away. Um, that also is good when you're trying to finish something in 3 days because I'm not trying to put a shit ton of shit everywhere. I'm sticking to a good layout of I want these 2 people, I want a flower, and that's it.
Yeah.
And, it was Bobby Johnson who said it recently that I thought was, like, one of the coolest compliments. He was like, "That was a really mature decision for you to simplify that
Yeah.
because it's so hard to leave it at that."
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, just it starts with the design, making sure it's readable and it's simple. It's something I know, like, I can get done in 3 days. It's not trying to fit everything into one thing. Bonus, it makes a better tattoo.
Yeah.
Um Planning it out, trying to do the stencil beforehand, trying to print out the stencil beforehand, so I'm not waiting in line at the convention to get to the printer and stuff. Sizing, bringing multiple sizes, so, yeah, I don't have to do that at the convention, and then I start from the bottom up. So the first day I do the whole calf, the second day I do the bottom half of the thigh, and the third day I do the top half of the thigh, and I just work my way up.
Yeah.
And I start as early as I can and stay until my hands just won't allow me to keep working.
Yeah. And I
So
was,
it's like 10-hour days,
yeah,
basically.
I mean, well, that's just like just tattoo time. Like once you count like, I mean, include breaks and stenciling it on and everything. I mean, you're on the convention floor for like 12 hours at least. I mean, like at Empire State, those first 2 days, you were there till midnight, both days.
Yeah. Yeah, so, like, hardly any sleep, like, I'm whooped by the end of it. The breaks are very small, I'm just trying to focus, get this done, but also, like, I wanna be nice and, like, say hi to everybody at least a
Yeah.
little bit when
Yeah.
they walk by, and because I know, like, when I was walking around at conventions, when I was, starting out in the tattoo industry, like, that would mean so much to me if a tattoo or even, like, just noticed me
Yeah.
or said hello or, like, it made my day. Um, so I don't know. I wanna also spread goodness if I can at the same time.
I think one of my favorite parts about observing that whole process is just seeing like the crowd of people around you constantly. Especially like like, yeah, I feel like at Golden State there was like a ton, and then at Sinners we were like in that corner, and there were like just a shit ton of people around you watching all. It's so cool. Um, but I also wanted to get into too, like, what do you think are the attributes besides being like a dynamic, obviously solid tattoo, like that win a best of show tattoo? Because I've been to 4 conventions in the past couple years, and you won best of show at 3 of them. And the other one, it was like also a very large and the pieces that you were up against, like that it was kind of close, are like very large. So it seems like in my experience it's been like a fucking huge like color realism piece are like the only ones that are like in contention for like best of show. Do you feel like people like you pretty much have to do that to win best of show at one of these conventions, like a big ass color realism piece?
Yes. Uh,
And why do you think that is? Because like,
yeah, I mean, it's a good question. Um, I hear a lot of tattooers saying, like, I don't know,
well, because I feel like it's definitely like impressive too, like how fast you can
color
tattoo.
usually
Yeah,
takes longer
right.
to do.
Yeah,
And so if you could do color, realism also takes a really long time to do.
yeah,
So I think it's just the fact that if you can get those 2 things done, like, in a piece over a span of 3 days, that impresses the judges
yeah, for sure.
more.
Yeah,
And
because
black and gray, like, some black and gray realism artists I know, like, it takes them as long as it takes me to do a color piece because of how much saturation and, depth they put into it and just their technique in general. So
yeah,
I still think it's the same, like, effort. It's just I don't know, people and some conventions also have categories. So, like, at Sinners, there's a best of show black and gray and a best of show color,
yeah, yeah. I
you
thought that
know?
was cool. That was
But
really neat.
for Golden State especially and Empire State, they seem to like the big color
I
pieces.
think also to like win best of show at a convention, and I think, and again, I have a very limited experience at conventions, so I could be wrong, but I think it's kind of like it kind of goes along with like what you have to do in the industry to like stand out as a realism artist, because I feel like nowadays there are like so many fucking amazing artists out there that can like they can replicate an image like just about as realistic as it gets. But I feel like to separate yourself like just in the industry or like a convention, you've got to do like something like beyond making it just really realistic, versus like whether that's like
Yeah,
just doing the design a little bit differently, or just the way you do realism, like your work. I wouldn't call it photorealism,
right.
painterly realism, I
Uh,
guess.
I guess that I will say that that's another thing that, helped me win these too, is that I've tried I'm trying to bring in something that no one's ever seen in the
Yes.
industry, um, which is implementing all my fine art background and my love for Baroque work into tattoos, and I was a painter before a tattooer, so I've finally been able to figure out how to implement that technique into
Yeah. Yeah.
tattooing, and so I feel like maybe I brought something new to the table.
Yeah.
I want you to see my pieces and be like, "That looks like a classical painting."
Yeah.
And not only that, but this last piece that I won at Empire State, it was a original reference photo of our
Yeah.
friends Taylor and Allison, and even the rose was like a rose that
Yeah.
my
Yeah, that you
mom gave me.
photographed, yeah.
And, yeah, so it was all original photo references. Um, so developing a style in any art form, I feel like is one of the hardest things to do,
Yeah.
and for it to not just be unique, but be, uh, aesthetically pleasing.
But, I mean, it's true, yeah. I feel like your stuff just has, like, a really unique look to it, and it's not just the Baroque figures. I mean, it's your flowers, like, even your black and gray, like, it's all, like, super unique, and it's all very traceable to you, which I think is, like, one of the hardest things to do in this industry. So, I think that definitely has attributed to you winning.
I appreciate
Yeah.
you. Thank you. It's sweet. I do sometimes, like there's once in a while where I'm like, "Oh, yeah, fucking I fucking did that," but a lot of times I still feel like an imposter and, I don't know, like, I feel like I'm shit. So
Well, and
it's
I
cool.
feel like we've talked a lot on this show before too about, like, the inherent, kind of like insecurities that come with doing any art form because it's inherently imperfect. So hopefully though you can still celebrate some of your victories, and hopefully it's cool to like accomplish those things. But I know part of you is probably like, well, what's next?
Yeah, absolutely. Which I can't say like, oh, it's a terrible problem to have. But coming in the industry, my goals was like, I want to be respected in the industries. Like I respect and look up to these tattooers. And I want to gain notoriety and recognition. And I want to be able to travel anywhere in the world and book out. Those were my goals. Now I feel like I've reached them, which is awesome, and I'm over the moon, and I sometimes feel guilty that I'm also kind of, like, a little depressed too. Just in general, I've dealt with depression my whole life, but just kind of, like, figuring out, well, what do I work towards now? What's next? Um, Thinking about, like, hobbies and stuff, like, I've poured my whole life, my hobbies, like, I am an artist, and I made that work. And not like work as a career. I've made
Yeah.
that as a career and
Yeah.
work. So I don't have like hobbies anymore, things that I want to do outside of
Yeah.
tattooing. I don't feel like painting anymore. I don't feel like being creative a lot of times because I put all my energy into this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I even had a thought like, what if it's like to start a family? Like, I don't know, having like maybe is my body telling me like I want to like be a mom or something? Is that what I'm missing? Like, so I literally have no idea. I have no
Yeah.
idea, but I'm trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I think it's a problem that probably most people will never have to face because, you know, very few people can like make all of their goals a reality. So you're kind of in a unique position now.
I think, but I can always get better.
Of
Like, I
course.
still
Yeah.
feel like I still feel like my work isn't incredible. Like, it's not, like, mind-blowing or
Eh.
anything.
Sorry. To
Like,
you. No, I'm just
I
kidding.
want
To you.
but I don't know. I wanna create a legacy of not just, like, art, but I wanna change the industry for good really badly. It's been so there's been so much toxicity in it for so long, and I want there to be less of it. I want to create safe spaces for apprentices and people to learn.
Yeah. Well, and one thing that you talked a lot about in your seminars is just like your goal of like being a nice person, that you're approachable at conventions, you inspire people and you're not like too good for anybody.
I don't know, I'm like I never think I'm too good.
Well, I mean, yeah, you're already
It's
there, but
yeah.
that's one thing that you've talked about a lot is just wanting to be like a good, nice person. And I think that's really admirable too.
Yeah, I get on my deathbed, like, I wanna I I I I w I want people to be like, "Alright," like, I think it's the relationships you make with
Yeah.
people when you're on your deathbed and the experiences you've had that you remember. You don't think about, like, how much money did you make or, like, how many days a week did you work? Like, "Oh, I'm really glad I really worked that weekend and spend that time doing this tattoo instead of having this moment with my family or hanging out with this friend and experiencing this moment that was special that it so I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Well, and I also think it's important too, like, I feel like to a degree, like the mentality of like what's next, what do I do next? Like not just tattooing, but like whatever career you go about. Like I feel like that's healthy to a degree because like I feel like if you're in that state where you're like, "Oh, I've done everything, like there's nothing else for me, like that's when like I think the quality of like whatever you're doing definitely starts to go down. So, I mean, at conventions, like what do you feel like is next for you? Like just more leg panels?
I think bigger and better. Uh, I think maybe trying to improve my reference photos and get even cooler reference photos. Um,
And sorry, not not to interrupt, but people who don't understand who are listening, can you explain the concept of using like reference photos in your tattoos versus like what an original reference photo is versus like some other
Yeah,
reference that
it's a
you
great
use?
question. So, a lot of realism tattooers, I mean, now we have AI, so people can actually
Which
like
is,
computer
yeah,
generate
that's a whole
images,
nother discussion. That's so
but
cool.
usually it's just like photos we find off the internet, Pinterest. To take an original reference photo is taking an actual photo
And
with you or with a photographer that you are close to
yeah,
and making one yourself.
and that's why like you see like the same like lion, literally the same lion tattoo or like the same Poseidon tattoo like 2,000
Mhm.
times because there aren't that many references of that statue or of lions or tigers or whatever. And so like that's why you see like the same references duplicated over and over again. And now you're starting to see it with Roberto Fari's work because people are like replicating paintings. But do you want to also talk about like why his work specifically like does make great reference photos and why you're starting to get away from that a little bit?
Yeah, so I fell into Roberto's work back in 2017, maybe. And his work is incredible because one, it's he's using chiaroscuro lighting, which is a single lit light source with high contrast that you see in Caravaggio. Uh, Caravaggio is a big inspiration for Roberto Ferri. So it makes a great tattoo. You have a lot of black in there, a lot of dark colors, lots of contrast. It's a painting, so you don't have to think twice about I mean, do have to think twice, but you don't have to think as hard about what undertones are here because he puts in those green paint strokes under the skin, or at least I could
That you can see.
that at least I could see it
Yeah.
easier. Um, and also it's a painting, so he already took that artistic liberty to create flow and dynamic postures and stuff, so
Do you think it makes it easier for you to tattoo off of, when you talk about undertones and stuff like that, because your approach to tattooing is like oil painting? Or do you think it would be like a little bit more difficult for somebody who like doesn't approach the tattoo like that?
it's always gonna be harder for people to approach a tattoo that they can't draw in real life.
Sure.
So if you are wanting to paint, to do, like, painterly tattoos, learn how to paint. If you wanna do figures, go take a figure drawing
Yeah.
class. Um I've been studying it for years, been going to figure drawing classes since high school. So, I think you just gotta make sure you can draw whatever it is you're tattooing, and it
Yeah.
makes it a hell of a lot easier,
Yeah.
especially because photos don't show everything. Sometimes you can't tell where fingers lay or where a body part ends because of a shadow that's in the way, or you have to know how to draw it in order
Yeah.
for it to happen.
Yeah, I think the whole concept of like reference photos is really interesting, and it's interesting the way that it's changing because like realism tattoos and Robbie Lados was like the first person that I talked to about this because like my back piece that he did, like he took that reference photo. It's like a skull that he has at home that he like photographed. And he was, we were talking about reference photos and black and gray realism, and he was like, yeah, I mean, like pretty much like, all black and gray tattoos are like plagiarized, in a sense
Mm,
because, somebody that took that photo, like that's their artwork that you're like copying. And obviously it's like accepted, but I had never thought about it like that. And I was like, that's really interesting.
mhm,
At the same time, it's, you know, most people that tattoo a tiger, unless you go to the fucking zoo and you get it to pose a specific way, like you're not going to be able to take that reference photo by yourself. So, it's a necessary evil a lot of times is using your own references. And now I think one thing that's so cool about AI is it's creating like authentic authentic different references for people to use. We did that Explorer Tattoo conference recently, and Brian Sanchez was one of the presenters, and he had a brief discussion on AI as part of his presentation, and like his whole presentation was fucking phenomenal. It was so well put together. But one of the things he did that like really blew my mind is he like had a screenshot of like you go to Google and you type in Poseidon tattoo, and it comes up whatever millions of results in 0.2 seconds, and like it's all the same fucking tattoo.
Yeah.
It's like so many black and gray Poseidon tattoos, and like they're all like good, but like they're all like pretty much the same. Like the quality is maybe like a marginal difference between them. And then he went into AI, I don't know, Midgard, or I don't know anything about it, but he put in like, Poseidon references, and it generates, six original if I know there's a debate about that, but like six new authentic Poseidon references that you can pick from. Now, as a tattooer or an artist, obviously at that point, you're gonna have to, pick which one's the best, and probably have to do some tweaking the design to make it work better as a tattoo. But like that whole discussion and the way he framed it, like really kind of like opened my mind to like, oh shit, like this could be a really cool thing for tattooing. And even like the original reference photos, um, you can make it do like Baroque figures in a pose. Probably is going to have to get a little bit better about drawing hands and faces, before you can like pull directly from that.
Yes.
But I think it's just really fascinating, and it's so cool.
My AI looks like shit still. I I posted it a little bit on my Instagram, but I cannot figure out how to get a good AI image. They all look
Even the ones of you
like
where like,
nightmares.
everybody was like making their fucking cool profile pictures where they look like, cyber goddesses and stuff. And like
Mhm.
you put yours in and just like
I had,
didn't
like,
really come
2
out the
teeths
best. Yeah, yeah,
coming out,
yeah,
like, 2 teeths. Yeah, so I haven't been able to figure it out yet, but, there has been a lot more new references even in, like, in Pinterest and stuff
yeah,
of people doing good AI,
yeah.
so
Some
that's
some
helped
of
a
it
little
is
bit.
just so cool.
Yeah,
Um,
but if you can get your own reference photo, highly recommend if you wanna do something nobody's doing.
for sure, for sure. And I think like just nothing else, just the knowledge of knowing that you took your original reference photos. Like for me, like if I was going to get a tattoo, like, it bumps it into a little bit, like it just makes it a little bit cooler that the artist like took their own reference photos.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the next step is bigger, better, upping the reference game, upping the tat game, and seeing maybe a back piece. I have no idea, like, it sounds I'm saying right now, I have no idea how I will complete a full back piece in 3 days, but I said the same thing about a leg panel, so who
Very
knows?
carefully. Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe we'll come back to this podcast and be like, "Remember when I
When
said
I
it
said I
wasn't
couldn't do a back
possible?"
piece. Yeah. Well, and I was going to mention earlier too, like, I don't know if I've ever seen like, I mean, I guess I've seen one that wasn't you, but like somebody who can do like literally a full color leg panel in 3 days. Like that's just insane. Maybe if you were like doing like, I don't know, 20 hours a day, it'd be more feasible. But it's
Chris
just,
Showstopper, Val Tattoo. Those are the 2 other ones I
yeah,
can think of.
that's true. But my point, very, very few people can do it. So I think that just the fact that you can do it by yourself in 3 days is really, really cool. Why do you think you are so fast at tattooing? Besides like just the tons of
I
hours
was
and years
always
you put in.
I was always fast at painting too. Um, and maybe it's because I've been drawing since I can remember, since I could hold a pencil or a crayon. I was lucky enough that my parents started putting me into oil painting classes in 3rd grade. Um, so I think it's years of experience and being obsessed with colors and art. Everybody sees the world depending on what they specialize in. So a musician might go and walk into a restaurant and pay attention to the music, or a videographer might go in and say, like, "Man, this would be a good shot for like a movie scene or a photo." For me, when I interact with people, I stare at faces, and that's just what I've always done. When I look around, I try to tell myself what color mixes I would do
Yeah.
to paint, that white wall over there is actually a dark, cool gray mixed with a tiny bit of a light yellow and white. So my brain just kind of looks at things and I've just been doing that since I can remember.
Yeah.
And I found out by talking to you, like
Not
that
everybody sees
that
it
not
that way.
everybody sees it like that. So, um, yeah, I think it's just I've been doing it forever, and I've painted fast. and I've always learned to block things in. So like a lot of
Yeah.
artists who don't go to art schools, they when they draw, they're all about lines. They do everything with lines. I look at things and I look at blocks. Blocks of shadow, what shape the shadow is, what shape is that color, and I lay it in when I see it.
Yeah.
And I don't focus on out the lines of anything. So I think that also helps efficiency.
Yeah, and I think your approach to color, just makes you a lot more efficient too, as far as, like, you're not really, like, you obviously can see tones, like, better than, you know, lay people or even most artists can, but I feel like when you're doing a huge tattoo like that, you're not splitting hairs over, like, "Okay, what is the exact color in this? Like, let me get it in my tube, that right exact color." Like, you're not, like, doing all
Yes.
that mixing, so it's like and even, like, you talk about in your seminars when you're like just, like, ask yourself, like, "Is this more yellow or is it more blue or is it more red?" And you just after you got your underpainting and you're just brushing the colors over that, I feel like it just makes you a lot faster and just a lot more efficient.
I'm glad you brought that up because that's another big thing is I used to be slow at tattooing. And it's because I focused too much on color. And it wasn't until this mind-blowing advice was given to me of value is most important. Value is more important than color. Doesn't even matter what color it is really in the end, as long as the values are correct. So if you get the color a little bit wrong, that's fine, but the value's gotta be there.
Yeah.
So that really helped a lot, like looking at pieces almost like a black and gray photo,
Yeah.
making sure that's correct.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a pretty good segue into one other thing that I wanted to talk about that we've been up to since our last podcast is that you've been teaching a lot more. So you did the Explorer Tattoo Conference, you did that seminar in New York after the convention, did a private seminar here this past week. And when we opened the shop, one of your goals or one of your next steps, because at that point, you had just finished doing all that traveling, you had been on Ink Master and you hadn't won all the conventions yet, but like one of your next goals was like, I want to teach, like hopefully like I can find my passion or I can develop my passion more in teaching. So, I mean, you've definitely been teaching a lot more. Do you feel like you've been able to do that or like that you've been able to foster that passion?
Yeah. It's funny when I was in 1st grade, I told my teacher I wanted to be a teacher when I grew up. And, I think that was the first job I wanted to do when I was really little. Wasn't even an artist, like, I love drawing and stuff. I was like, "I wanna be a teacher." I also love the idea of being up in front of a classroom and almost, like, performing. I was a theater kid when I was younger too.
Yeah.
But I love teaching, and so I'm really glad I have been able to teach a lot recently and dive into that. Um, Only downfall is I have gotten very introverted as I've grown up, so I'm
Yeah.
not used to talking
It
a
takes a
lot.
lot out of you.
It takes a lot out of me, but I love doing that, especially in a world or in an industry where not everybody wants to share knowledge. And I wish so badly that I had more people to share more knowledge with me. I was lucky enough that a few came along, Frank, Sanchez and Rember, they opened their ideas to me and really helped me. Um, but most of the time people want to take advantage of you for work in this industry, at least beforehand. Um, so teaching has been a passion and now I get to do it. It's been great.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I think too, I feel like nowadays, like people are way more willing to share knowledge. And I feel like, that's becoming like a whole like niche and market within the tattoo industry is like, tattoo seminars and people teaching courses and stuff like that. But, I think the other big part of it too is like not everybody is like meant to be a teacher. Like being really good at something and teaching somebody else how to be really good at something are like two completely different skill sets. And I think like a lot of it's like just inherent, and then a lot of it's like, you have to practice that. You have to practice teaching, because you can have all the knowledge in the world, but if you can't convey that to somebody else, then it's not going to mean anything as a teacher.
Right. That was a whole other thing that I really had to learn. And I think of it as when you're explaining a game to someone. So when you're explaining a card game, if you can explain that card game as simply as possible to where they can understand it, That's the best way to teach somebody how to do it, right? It's the same thing with tattooing, it's same with any kind of teaching, is figuring out the simplest way to put it.
Yeah.
And it's hard it's hard to figure out what verbiage to use, and you don't wanna say too much. You don't wanna give too you don't wanna if you can gather information and simplify it to a few sentences, that's it's beautiful. They'll
Yeah.
retain it. They'll know what to do with it. And that's what I when I teach, that's what I've tried to do is think about formulas. Think about simplifying my color palette, simplifying anything I could think of.
Yeah. And that's one thing that's been cool because I've been watching you do seminars for God, 4 years now. And that's one thing that's been really cool for me to watch is how you've um, developed your presentations into making them simpler to where like I've learned a lot more about tattoos, but even like I can understand them. So how you've like developed these formulas and these hard and fast rules of like, here's how to break it down, worry about this. Because I feel like in anything too, I've noticed it a lot in tattooing and I, noticed it a lot with my music background. Like I have been around some people that are so good. They're amazing musicians, amazing artists, whatever. They're so good at what they do. And when they talk about it, like I can tell this person knows exactly what the fuck they're talking about. For me, though, it doesn't mean anything because it's like over my head. Like maybe it works for them, but unless you can explain it to somebody in a way that makes sense, like that knowledge, it doesn't really mean anything as a teacher, you know?
And especially with color. Like I've I've listened to people talk about color and left being like, wow, yeah, they know what they're talking about, but I have no idea what the fuck any of that meant. And it's hard to retain when there's so much information being thrown at
Yeah.
you.
Well, especially like, we talked about approaches earlier. Like if you're looking at a specific color, like, you know, that's a skill too, is like being able to identify like, okay, what exact color is this? And like, what do I need to mix to get that color? And like, that's something that I feel like, some people, they can just like see it better than others. Like some people just have like like an incredible, like meticulous eye for color. And I feel like your approach is cool because it's like, if you can't do that, that's cool. Like, let's break it down a little bit more. Like, is it more yellow or is it more blue or like, what,
More
what
red.
is the undertone or whatever, you know?
So like when we talk about color theory and exercises when you're trying to figure out if a color is more blue, yellow, or red, a simple one would be like, having this white wall, for example. I mean, what color wall do you see when you first look at
White,
it?
white.
Yeah, especially like not knowing like much about color theory. Now, if I were to be like, now is a color more blue, yellow, or red? And you're like, I can't tell, it looks white. Look at something a little bit more obvious near it to compare it to. So, what color is this shadow from the TV?
Blue.
And then when you look back down at this color of the wall and you compare it to that blue, what color does it look more like?
Probably more like yellow.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I did it. I'm gonna be a tattoo artist now. But it's been really cool to watch, and it's been really cool to see you like develop your presentation, especially like in a setting like Explorer or like the upcoming symposium where you're not tattooing. It's just a lecture presentation because then like you really have to explain it good to somebody because you're not a like it's not like okay whatever if you don't get it like I'll just show you how to do it when I'm tattooing. So it's been really cool to see how you've like been able to like synthesize that information in a really efficient way.
Cool.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I try.
One thing that I've heard, and this, I think this is probably more of an old school mentality, but I've heard like, artists talking about apprentices and stuff like that. And even if they're like doing their due diligence to teach that apprentice well, they're like, oh, but you don't want to give them everything. Like, you don't want to tell them like everything,
Yeah.
like, what are your thoughts on that? Like, do you agree with that? Or like,
I mean, why not want it'd be boring if you had no competition.
yeah,
Like, give them
yeah,
all your knowledge. It doesn't mean that they're gonna retain everything you say. It doesn't mean that they're gonna do work exactly like you. If they get really, really good, that all that means is that you have to continue to get better.
yeah,
And how boring would it be if you were just the best at everything, you had nowhere to go?
yeah. Well, and I feel like too, like everybody's goal in the tattoo industry or like whatever industry you're in should be like to create a better industry, right? So like let's create a better tattoo industry. Like the more good tattooers we have out there, like the more people are going to see tattoos favorably. I mean, the perceived value of the services is going to go up. Like, it's only like a good thing to like spread your knowledge and like make other people better. And then like, worst case scenario, that person becomes really good and it pushes you to be even better because like now you do have competition.
Yeah.
Even if you tell somebody everything it's like kind of like you said, it's like it's up to them to, understand it and put it into place and also them to put in the work. But if you are able to teach somebody to be as good as you, I feel like that's more of a statement on you as a teacher. Like I remember like I had this teacher back when I was doing music and he was like teaching this group and like they were playing something and he said when he realized that he was supposed to be teaching, it was this moment that he watched them play something and in his head he was like, I can never fucking play that. Like there's no way. Like you could give me a million years to practice and I would never be able to play that. So that's when he was like, okay, yeah, I'm doing the right thing. I should be a teacher. So now you're
Man.
fucking amazing at what you do. So I don't know if you'll ever get to that point, but I thought that was interesting.
Oh, that is really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm super excited about the symposium coming up. I think
Oh
that's
my
going to be
God, I
so
am
cool.
too. And we have to do a whole episode at some point or a majority, however long you want, to talk about the behind the scenes that you do for the shop. Because you really like even putting this together, the symposium, this whole shop runs because of you. So it'd be nice to hear kind of like the business side of it at some point. But yeah, you came up with the symposium thing and even calling it that is brilliant because
It
I
is a
was
pretty cool name.
it is a cool name.
Sounds cool.
And there's gonna
Symposium. Seminar. Ugh. Lame.
symposium.
Yeah.
There was gonna be an Explorer conference and it got canceled, so you're like, "Well, might as well have, like, some type of seminar here then," already took the days off. And yeah, now we're gonna have me and Taylor Joyner and Monique and
Phelps.
oh, sorry, Taylor Phelps, she got married,
A long
and
time ago.
a long time ago, oh my god, and Monique and, my friend Katie is coming, and we're gonna do a seminar, and it's gonna be great. It's a great idea on your part.
Yeah, I didn't really do anything, but I think it's going to be really cool. I think it's really cool how like each of you have very different backgrounds and very different styles and very different approaches. And actually kind of goes into what we were saying earlier about like, you know, color realism and just different ways to do stuff. Like you and Monique both do like color realism, broad strokes, but I feel like you do it so differently that like both both presentations people are going to get a ton out of just like seeing how you approach things.
I'm so excited. Yeah. And it also means I don't have to get into everything when I do it. I can get into only the stuff that like separates me from everybody else. So
Yeah.
I don't have to go in and talk about contrast and values and all that. I can go in and talk about like how do you make a Baroque style tattoo.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it'll be cool. Everyone does like their specialty. Taylor is phenomenal at design and flow. I'm excited to hear about that. Monique is incredible at color saturation and just her color choices in general. And Katie is just like the most solid tattooer in existence. So
Yeah. Man, too bad she's not here. That was a lot of fun, that last show
yeah,
that we did.
I
Yeah,
know.
she's so much fun.
I know.
Yeah. Um, so you just did, like, your first, like, full-on private seminar, like, you think you wanna start doing more of those?
Yeah, so I found out that is the best way to learn so much about tattooing. More than seminars, more than seminars,
Yeah.
honestly, is having a one-on-one 2-day personal seminar like I just did, where the first day she watched me tattoo and I talked through my whole process, and the second day, she tattooed and I watched her and jumped in and showed her exactly what to do. We did a portfolio review, and I was like, "Man, this is" I gave more information to her than I learned in my entire apprenticeship and first
Yeah.
few years of
Yeah.
tattooing all in 2 days. If somebody can do this and during a seminar, you can only do so much, you learn a lot, but the extent that we went through over the 2 days, I feel like she said she learned so much, and I felt like I was able to give her so much.
Yeah.
So if, like, anybody out there is like, "How do I get better? I feel stagnant," um, reach out to a tattooer and be like, "Hey, can I, like, shadow you for a day? And can you tell me about your process? And can you like maybe like watch me tattoo the next day? I feel like so many tattooers, it wouldn't hurt to ask, would do that.
Well, and a lot of artists are like starting to offer this service. I say a lot. I can think of like
Yeah.
two off the top of my head, but I mean, you could,
But they might not even know about it. So just like reach out and ask, be like, hey, can I do this? And I
yeah,
bet you they would.
yeah, and I feel like it's so cool too having that like that one-on-one experience. If nothing else, just for the opportunity to like ask questions in real time because online seminars are becoming a thing too. Like we'll probably do it at some point, but like I feel like the biggest thing that you're missing when you do a seminar online versus in person is just being able to like ask whatever questions you want. And then basically, the smaller your group gets, like the more direct access you have with that presenter. So a one-on-one
Mhm.
seminar is like that's as direct as you can get as far as like getting asking questions and then getting feedback in real time as well, I think is a huge opportunity. It's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Recommend it for anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. I told everyone before on the last podcast that we were going to start doing them again. I lied. Um, Not intentionally, but it's a lot of work to do this, especially like in the video format now. So because in the past it was just me. I mean, obviously, Deanna recorded, but it was just me doing all the editing, promotion, stuff like that. So it just takes a lot of time, and it wasn't really something that I was able to devote all my time to. But I'm super excited. We have this awesome production company that we found called Barely Business, and it's one of my friends from college, and then his wife, kind of like a husband and wife duo, just kind of helping us out with stuff. And I'm super excited for the video format now too, because I feel like that's just gonna help show people what we're doing, and most importantly, getting people to see your face. So
When I don't look like Quasimodo.
So we're hoping to do episodes monthly, and I think definitely with the help that we've been getting, we'll for sure be able to do that. So I'm really excited. We're gonna have some awesome guests on the podcast, get into some awesome discussions. So yeah, I'm really excited to see where it goes from here. Thank you guys for tuning in and waiting patiently for this episode, and I'm excited for the next season of the Eden Pod.